I've got my project listing right here on the home page for Metasploit. So I've got a couple. This is the one that is just installed by default. Nothing's actually configured in there. If I go to my home, that is where I configured my network range. I've got 11 hosts that were discovered. I've got 48 services. So if I go to the 11 hosts, I've got my list of names and IP addresses and the operating system that it believes happens to be there. I could import data, so I've got a list of vulnerabilities that are available for each of these. And you can see if I click on them, I've got services, and we could go, for example, to .68. We could see a list of a number of services that are available on this particular host. So if I want to actually go about doing some exploits, I can do basically the same thing that we were doing before. So I could look for distcc. I could click there. I could set up my target system so I could either plug in the entire range and just let it look for every system on the network that may be vulnerable to this particular plugin, or I could set my target address to be 68, which is a host that we know is vulnerable. So we've got target settings, we've got payload options, basically all of the same things that we had before. And all of the modules that we had available to us before were available. So rather than doing typing and interacting with the system that way, as we have been doing, you can just click around and do a lot of work by just clicking on things. If you're into graphical user interfaces as opposed to hands on keyboard, this would work out pretty well for you. If you were to actually break into a system, you would be able to get there through active sessions, and you could even see your closed sessions that were available. One thing that you can do with this, and we'll take a look at doing this the old fashioned way a little bit later on, you could do social engineering campaigns if you wanted to upgrade to Metasploit Pro. You could do social engineering campaigns where you could test to see whether somebody was actually going to open email, clicking on links, submitting web forms, and that sort of thing. This is a pretty common test in enterprises these days because social engineering is such a common attack vector. We can take a look at all of the information that we had basically in the same way that we were able to with MSF Console, it's just we're doing it through a web interface. So this is another way to use Metasploit and to be able to make use of the Metasploit framework.